Hi, this is Rick Emmett of Triumph, and you're listening and watching Talk About Rock.
Talking About Rock is sponsored by School of Rock, North Buffalo, where they're making musicians every day. Okay, joining us now, Canadian Music Hall of Fame artist and Canadian Music Industry Hall of Fame member, Mr. Rick Emmett. Rick, how are you?
I'm good, Robert. How are you doing?
Very well. Thanks for joining us today, man. You know, your unique songwriting and playing has shined through all these years in Triumph. And now you have a new album, Diamonds, that just came out. Was it March 1st, I think? Tell us about putting together this project.
It was essentially a thing where I got my master's back from the period of my life, 1990 to 1995, 96. So, and the guy that does merch for me online at Rock Paper Merch, Greg Campbell, said, "Hey, why don't we do a compilation?" And I said, why don't we focus on the hard rock tracks?" And so that was the genesis of everything. And then we went through the, very lengthy process of him deciding he wanted a deluxe package with all kinds of extra thingies in it. And so that took a long, long time. It was supposed to come out the same time that my memoir came out last October.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Lay It on the Line, my memoir on ECW Press. There's a commercial for you. And yeah, so now the companion compilation package entitled Diamonds is now out on rockpapermerch.com. Go and get your copy now.
Yeah, I've been looking through it. Yeah.
I wanted to say this. My older brother, his name was Robert Edward Emmett. So you're Robert Edwards. And I go, oh, that's kind of cool. When I saw it on the list, I went, hey, Robert Edwards, that's a classy name.
That's not bad, right? Not bad. So yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. So, yeah, the Diamonds package, I've been looking through it, the best of the hard rock years from 1990 to 95, brand new compilation. Lots of really cool stuff in the deluxe package, like you're saying, cool guitar picks, photos, and everything. And for all you folks out there that are listening, this is not going to be available on any of the streaming platforms. Okay. You can only get this from Rock Paper Merch, like Rick was saying, and I think there's going to be some stuff on the Deco website too. They'll be selling.
Yeah, Deco is kind of like the American distributor that has put it out to actual retail. So, it's possible you could go to your sort of local vinyl record store and find it if that's what you're sort of into. Yeah, the package is different. Like there's a deluxe one where you get like a felt slip mat, and you get I hand wrote lyrics, and they did a limited lithograph of 3 pages of lyrics, and there's postcard color pictures that had never been released before, blah blah blah. So that's a pricey item, but it's a collector's kind of a thing. And then all the way down to like your sort of, I think, $50 version of, you get the gatefold album with the CD slipped into it as well, which I'd never seen before, but I went, oh, they do that now, do they? Okay, great.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff. Well, let's get into the meat of this here. Let's talk about the songs that you have for us on here. I've been lucky enough to listen to these tracks. These songs are great. So starting with Drive Time, this really showcases your rock blues style once again. Great opening track.
Yeah, obviously I've been doing a round of interviews for this, and I keep mentioning the fact that Randy Cook, the incredibly superior drummer, I hired him for this first album after leaving Triumph, and he was so great on that track in particular. And there's a million stories I could tell, but and the bass player Chris Brockway, the rhythm section was phenomenal. So, but the other thing about that is I do this little chicken picking,
right? Which you're known for that, right? You're known for that type of style. That's definitely that's Rick Emmett's playing.
Well, I'm a rock player, but there's little things like that, which are like, I like Chet Atkins too. You hear it in Mark Knopfler's playing as well. Right. That kind of, he's a rock flair. And if you're a rock guy, you came out of blues, but there was always a side of me where I kind of liked finger style things too, you know. So Drive Time was nice because it had a marriage of kind of, you know, all this crazy uh country chicken picking and then, you know, extremely hard rock.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So talking about the hard rock, definitely got another song on here called Bang On, which definitely took me back to the Triumph days, you know, with a lot of power and positivity in your music. I think that's what really always shined about the Triumph songs, right?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and you know, in that particular instance, that song, I actually do that on an arch top big body jazz guitar, but I tuned it in an open C tuning and sort of played it in the same way that like Keith Richards kind of plays nice meaty chords. So it kind of had a Rolling Stones vibe to it to me. But then I went, yeah, but you know, I don't want to sing like Mick Jagger. And then I went, oh, I want Queen. And so there was these big choruses, and we had a woman's Colleen Allen who was in my band. She sang in the backgrounds to make them, you know, these big shiny background vocals. So it was great, you know. And you know, that record, it didn't really get much of that whole album didn't get much of a bump promo wise or marketing wise in the States. So it's kind of nice for these songs to get a second life and get a chance to breathe again and be out there. And I got to listen to remasters of them and go, oh yeah, this was pretty big and shiny. It was kind of fun.
Right. And I love, again, you have Saved by Love on here, which is outstanding. And the other track, which is really a beautifully haunting spirit memory track, When Her Heart Breaks. Just an outstanding track.
Thanks. I didn't necessarily want to put it on this package, but Greg, the guy that was sort of putting it together, he insisted because he really liked that song. And, you know, radio is a funny thing. Like when that album came out here in Canada, that song became a kind of a hit on radio down on the East Coast, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia in particular, Newfoundland. And so it's like, you can't control those kinds of things. Sometimes weird things happen where somebody at radio decides, oh, I'm going to play this. And then it gets good phones. And then, you know, now other stations are deciding, well, we got to play it. Those other guys are playing it. But it only happens regionally. You know, it doesn't necessarily happen on a big wide scale. I mean, obviously, I guess nowadays, if you're, I don't know, Taylor Swift or Bruno Mars or, you know, Ariana Grande or something like that, you know, you put out your song and everybody plays it. But
yeah, radio is a whole different animal these days than it used to be, right? A lot of that has definitely changed.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't really relate on that level, but you know, I still relate to music on this level here, and I relate by, you know, coming on your podcast and saying, hey, you guys interested in getting some old stuff on vinyl? Great.
Yeah, just outstanding tracks. Like I was saying, this album is just a masterful representation of your ability and style. That's definitely how I see it. When I heard the songs, I was like I said, you know, this is Rick Emmett's style. There were so many folks that I grew up with playing guitar, and they're always trying to figure out your little licks and your little things that you would put on these albums because it was just like a standout thing for you, your standout style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally. Now, I mean, the thing too is, of course, getting out of Triumph and going out on my own, this period of my life, I was trying to establish myself in a different songwriter kind of way too, because now I didn't have to necessarily feed the image of what Triumph, you know, was as a collective between the three partners. Right. So, you know, I tried to expand my lyric writing a little bit. That's why songs like Big Lie were on there, and World of Wonder was on absolutely. And I don't know if it was on the compilation, but and you know, that thing, like you mentioned, Heartbreaks, it was a power ballad. And I think in some respects, you know, in Triumph, when we did those kinds of songs, Gil wanted to sing them because he wanted to be on the radio, you know, and it was like, okay. So I didn't really get a chance in the later stages of the band to be able to put out tracks like that. So, but, you know, I was trying to grow as a singer and a songwriter. And that kind of shows up, I think, on the Diamonds package as well.
Oh, it definitely does. Definitely does. And you've always had some great standout tracks, singing on, Magic Power, Lay It on the Line, rock anthems, really. These were you guys were the beginning of arena rock back in the day. It was just crazy. And I was reading on some early history that I didn't know. So one of my favorite tracks you guys put out, The Blinding Light Show from the first album Triumph, which was relabeled in the beginning. You had actually done that with a previous band called Act 3. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, the co-writers on that tune are Denton Young and Chris Brockway, and then Chris ended up playing bass in the Rick Emmett band when I left Triumph. He was the first bass player that I had working with me, and great musician. And I think Blinding Light Show it was probably his idea. He was the guy that brought that to the band and had this hook, Blinding Light Show, and that the thing that's sort of in that song is the level of irony. Like, oh, the big rock show, but it blinds you to the truth,
Right.
and which I really liked that idea a lot. And in Act 3, it was a very good kind of idea to have. It was a very prog track when we originally did it. It had things that were sort of in different time signatures, like that riff that Triumph does that went like bum ba ba da ba doodle doodle da da doodle doodle da. In Act 3, it went bum ba ba da ba da doodle da da. It had like an extra little beat in it, so that it would be like like a little bar of 5 kind of thing. It was like, what's that? And of course the Triumph guys go, let's do it in straight time,
Right.
But that side of Triumph, that prog side, I was always trying to push the envelope a little bit and have it be that, so that when I left, and like there's a song on the Diamonds thing, Stand and Deliver, it was like that was kind of really where I wanted Triumph to go as an arena band, like to go more towards a heavier kind of Zeppelin. And there were bands like Rush was a band that was like that. Dream Theater was a band that became very much that,
Right.
And I really liked that stuff a lot. And I think Blinding Light Show was sort of the roots of that. And I think it shows up on the Diamonds thing as stuff like Stand and Deliver, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Just some outstanding music. And not only that, you also teach music, songwriting, and you've written for Guitar Player magazine as well.
I have. Yes, I've had a long and checkered life, Robert.
You have a lot going on, and you've brought us some great music. It's been amazing, and I dare say, the magic power of the three of you guys back in the day with your shows is very missed in this day and age, I have to say. And for our younger audience out there who may not be aware, Tribe was nominated for multi Juno Awards, including Group of the Year for 79, 85, 86, and 87. Just some amazing stuff going on with you guys. So of course, I have to ask you the same question that every interviewer is asking you, that's on everyone's mind and all the Triumph fans' mind worldwide. Will we see Triumph perform again?
I doubt it. I'm sorry to, take out a sharp little pin and prick the balloon of hope, but I think when we did the Triumph documentary, and we Gil rehearsed for a long time to sort of get him some. We only played 3 songs, but he was going to sing and play Lights Go Down, and he hadn't played in ever since we did the Sweden reunion. He hadn't sat down and played any music, touched his drums. So, and then when we did that, after the end of it, I think he went, okay, I'm done. Like a show of hands, it's just, it's a lot to ask of him. The whole idea of singing half the show, but you're sitting there and you're trying to drum an extremely aggressive kind of a set of music for anybody that has to play drums. And I would say in a Triumph situation, in a trio situation, but even more, Rick Emmett writes these tunes where, it's like, I want to get busy in this. So I'm going to need a drummer to play a lot of fills. And Gil was game for a long run. And then now he goes, yeah, I think I've had enough. My back doesn't like this. My shoulders, my wrists, my elbows. I mean, there was a time, I don't know if folks know this, but when we did the live album Stages, we played a long tour, and when we came off it and we were doing that, the record company wanted a couple of tracks, and there was one where Gil couldn't. His elbow was so sore. Now I think it was maybe from playing too much golf as well as you know playing too much drums. But we had to have another guy sit in and play a drum part on one of the tracks because he couldn't do it. He was in sort of rehab for his elbow. So Gil was always a very avid golfer, and I think that over time, I think that kind of cost him a little bit too. He goes now and he gets physio so that he can still go golfing. But the idea of touring and playing drums, I think it's a non-starter.
I understand. Well, you guys have brought us so much amazing music, and you've come here today to talk about the new stuff coming out here. So, folks, you can pick up the new album Diamonds. You can also have a signed deluxe edition, which they got 400 collector sets, which are now available for pre-sale at Rick's web store, like he was saying, rockpapermerch.com. And also a limited number of hand-signed editions will be available through Deco Entertainment's website, definitely. So such very cool stuff. Thank you so much, Rick, for your time today. We really appreciate it, and thank you for all of the music, man. Great stuff.
You're welcome, Robert. My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.